big coffee this morning, and I went overboard with it.
Did you?
Oh yeah, but well, you being an artist
Right.
is kind of what fascinated me. Because I see, like, I looked at a bunch of your paintings. I'm like, man, that shit's awesome. And I'm like, well, my hands can't hold steady like that. There's no way I'm doing anything. But I looked at your stuff, and it wouldn't have mattered really if the lines were straight, like the way you do your art and everything.
I mean, there's so many ways to do art. I mean, yeah, you don't have to have straight lines. If you're doing an abstract, the abstract is the abstract. I mean, it's not going to look like anything, and that's the definition of an abstract painting. You can do an impressionistic painting where it's not exactly the object, but collectively it looks like what an object would be. You can at least identify it. So there's totally a lot of ways you can do art.
Yeah.
And and really it's therapeutic in a sense where shaking is it's something that is not going to hinder you as an artist in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
You can overcome that. Absolutely.
Pull the microphone towards you just a little bit. You can move it however you want. You can lean back in your chair,
Okay.
but yeah, pull it towards you a little bit. That's good.
Okay.
I just want to make sure everybody can hear you.
No, yeah.
Because believe me, I think some of the stuff we'll talk about today, I think the people are going to be pretty interested in. Well, I started doing this as therapy.
Okay.
A big reason why I started doing the show, I started doing lives, was personal therapy for myself. What, like with your painting and stuff, I looked at a lot of your stuff, and there's been over the years, there's been a huge transition in kind of, well, I guess what you're posting at least.
Right.
Like, why'd you start painting to begin with? Is it something similar like that?
So, I've always been a very creative person. I live off being creative. That's really how I express myself, and it comes in a lot of forms. It's really not just painting, but I was always inspired by particularly painting because my mom is a painter. She didn't actively paint growing up for me, but her art was always around, and I knew that she created that, and she was very good. So she actually had formal lessons at a very young age, whereas me, I'm self-taught. So I actually started in college. I needed to decorate my apartment, to be truthfully honest. So I went and just decided, well, let me just see what I can create. Started painting, and I really liked what I was painting, and I just kept going. I didn't think too much about it. I just did it. And you can see the progression over the years of just continuing to practice, try different techniques, different styles. So really, yeah, the progression's there, and a lot of people actually comment on that. So,
well, you see, like, there's just a couple years ago, there was just kind of like this abstract kind of thing where it was like just a lot of colors that are out there, and then you started doing some shapes, and you started doing things. And then the next thing you know, I mean, I'm like, what caught my eye was, like these most recent ones you've like posted and put up was like I thought it was great. A huge nod to Houston. You got the space shuttle taken off with the purple. Is it supposed to be like lean, or is it Kool-Aid?
So that's definitely not Kool-Aid. That was most certainly lean. Yes, no. So very much born and raised, and I was actually raised in Pasadena, born in Houston. But yeah, I love where I'm from. I absolutely will always rep Houston. And if I can do that through my art, I'll do that through my art. I think we have a very unique culture in our city. And to showcase that, yeah, I'll do that all day. So most certainly that was not Kool-Aid.
Yeah. Well, I had a buddy of mine on yesterday, a guy named Narada Jones, and we had talked about it. And I don't want to be stereotypical. He's a black guy, and he had explained it to me. He was going through some of this stuff, and the only one he was not like definitive on was whether or not it was lean or Kool-Aid. So I tease him all the time about, every time he comes over, I'm just going to have like a massive jug of grape Kool-Aid and a pound of sugar for him, just to, but anyway, do you take, I mean, like, obviously not everybody does what they do for money. It could be just joy or whatever. But at the same time, if you're doing something like, you're like, hey, I'm going to do this anyway, I might as well make some money off of it. Do you use this as an enterprise? I mean, you sell these paintings and everything?
Absolutely.
Yeah?
Absolutely. This is very much an income for me. But it's not about the money. I'm very much business minded. So do I enjoy that aspect of being an artist? Absolutely. I enjoy the business aspect of it. At the end of the day, I'll still create whether or not anyone buys my art. If they want to buy it, then the more the merrier.
Yeah.
But just to be able to create is a privilege and a joy, and money or not, I'll do that.
Did you guys just take off with COVID? Like did you just like all kinds of time and creativity, or?
So when people talk about COVID, my experience with it is a little bit different, because that year that COVID started was very much a different year for me. I actually lost my father in the middle of the biggest COVID lockdown. So COVID was kind of second on my mind. It was very much causing a huge challenge and grief and losing my father. But for me, when I think of 2020 and COVID, I think of grieving. I actually lost my grandfather that year as well, 2 months after my father. So quite a big loss. So for me, that year was spent very much diving into my art, rebuilding, and really just picking up the pieces of kind of what was left and moving on.
I had seen that on your page, and I didn't want to say anything to you about it because I didn't want it to feel weird. Today is 1 year from my father passing away.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, he passed away February 19th of 21. And so it was ironic when you and I had originally started talking, trying to kind of schedule this.
Mm-hmm.
When you said, hey, today was when you're available, I was like, okay. And then I saw your post recently, and that's something I wanted to dive into. Was your father passed away of stomach cancer?
Yes, awful cancer.
Yeah, I mean, obviously not the same thing, but I know that like a gunshot wound, stuff like that to the stomach is like the most brutal, painful, awful way to die. Things
Mm-hmm.
like that. And I'm sorry for saying it even that way, but I can imagine that stomach cancer was pretty brutal.
Oh my gosh, Jason, watching my father pass from stomach cancer was brutal for me, but I cannot imagine. I know the pain he was in, but I just can't imagine the pain he was in. Stomach cancer especially is awful. It's awful. So yeah, I mean, at this point, we are in the process, my siblings and I, of actually having genetic testing done to make sure that we don't have the gene for it. It's not the way I would ever want to go, to be truthfully honest. It's terrible, terrible cancer.
Is it one of those cancers that they do believe is genetic, where you guys have markers for it and everything?
There could be a genetic component. There can be at times. It's not always genetic. He passed 2 months after his diagnosis. It was so incredibly fast. There was no time to catch our breath. My dad never even talked about passing. It was not on his mind. He wanted to fight, but it got so bad so quick, and there was little to no signs of the stomach cancer. I think the first sign, just to create a little bit of awareness, because stomach cancer is known as the silent killer. There was some minor stomach pain I think he dealt with maybe in November prior to the February he was diagnosed. And really the pain never went away and just increased from that point on. He wasn't able to digest nutrients due to the mass in his stomach. So essentially, eating became non existent for him. Um, which is a whole nother topic. As you mentioned that post I posted,
Yeah, nutrition.
nutrition was so. At some point, there was a hospital stay that I had stayed with my dad, and he was there because the chemo they had gave him really just it just blew out his kidneys. It was so harsh on him. Then the first priority became the kidneys. Let's get the kidneys strong so he can continue chemo. So he was in the hospital dealing with going on dialysis and things like that. But the nurses dropped by a menu and, said, pick what he wants for breakfast. So I read out the menu items to him, not even realizing he couldn't eat any of it. Due to the type of cancer he had to have soft foods. He couldn't have hard foods. And they really had literally probably two options, applesauce and maybe something else that he could eat. And that really, it did not sit well with me at that time, that I read off all these great food items that I'm sure my dad would have loved to have eaten, and he could not eat a single one of them. And so during that hospital stay, I think I only saw my dad literally take in Coca-Cola,
Mm-hmm.
and that was it. There was no other solution for the hospital that the hospital would have for him.
They like I read all of that, and it was baffling to me that he's in a hospital with this particular type of cancer, knowing what they can do, and they have no other options for him other than applesauce and Coke.
It's literally whatever is in the cafeteria was what he had available to him. That was, and what made it more challenging is we could have, brought in maybe some food for him, but we're talking April 2020. There was one person allowed in the hospital. We weren't allowed to come out, go back in. It was so strict that it created even more challenges. I mean, yeah, awareness definitely needs to be spread about the lack of nutrition when it comes to long hospital stays for cancer patients. Absolutely.
Was there any building up to that? You said it was pretty much 2 months from the time he was diagnosed to the time he passed. Was he complaining about stomach pains? Did he have any signs? Was he saying, hey, I just maybe don't feel well, but wasn't?
My dad was very much a strong man. We're talking an incredibly hard worker. So the first sign was weight loss, unexplained weight loss, and some minor stomach pain. The weight loss was concerning to him, and this is the type of father he was. He cared so much about his kids that actually that November, so it was Thanksgiving time, right? He was worried about us coming over because he didn't want us to be worried about him losing weight. He wasn't sure what was going on. But for him being a father, he did not want his kids to be concerned and upset. So that was the few couple signs: minor stomach pain and then weight loss. But a very healthy man his whole life. He really never took a sick day from work. He worked 6 days a week, only took Sundays off.
What kind of work did he do?
So he was a general manager of a Whataburger for many years.
I saw that.
Yeah, in Deer Park, Texas. So my dad loved his job. He loved Whataburger, and that's just who he was, being such a hard worker. Any profession he had, he would have done that particular profession 110%. But he just so happened to land as a general manager in Whataburger, made great money doing it, but so happened to just build a community. We grew up in Pasadena, which is right next to Deer Park, so a lot of my high school friends, grew up going to that Whataburger. They knew him. The whole community knew my dad, James Moody. So, it was a big loss to everyone when he passed.
No, well, I'm sorry to hear that. I know,
I'm sorry about your father as well.
Yeah, I bore everybody on here all the time about my dad. So I can hold off on that one. Everybody knows my thing about my dad. We were very, very close.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Well, we worked together, started the family business that I run today. So,
What a great thing for him to leave you with.
yeah, it was weird. My dad always talked about legacy when we were at the business, when he was there, and he constantly talked about, I'm doing this to build a legacy. I'm doing this to build. And when I'm there, like I'm running the company, but I'm managing things under his supervision, and I'm like, I don't think we should do that. Like that's not going to help the like in my mind, right? And there was this constant conflict between my dad and I. But it's something, you just have it, that feeling in your gut.
Oh, yeah.
Like what you're doing. Like you've never done it before, but you just know what you're doing is right. Well, that's the way he felt about the business, and was able to bring people together and build a structure that, since his passing, was I was able to take it and springboard it into something better.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So and it just felt great because I can share that the only reason that we're there is because of my father. Like I like growing up, I was like, no, this is gonna be mine. I don't want to share it with my dad. I don't want to say that you did this, that you did that. Now I love like saying this is what my father built. Like our office is up in Montgomery, and I go up there a couple days a week, usually at least once a week. Go up there, approve invoices. And I've never gone to the office. I just never worked there ever. I always worked here out of my house. And so I ended up giving my office there, which had nothing on the walls. It was just literally a desk. And I gave it to a guy promoted to the general manager position. And I go work in my dad's office, but I won't sit at the desk. Like his office, excessive. It was 1,500 square feet, his office.
Wow.
Yeah,
wow.
It's massive. It's like a whole suite.
Yeah.
I mean, desk, couple couches, huge conference room table, like 15-seat conference room table. I sit at the end of the conference table, and I just bring my iPad and set up and stuff like that. Because I love walking in there and recognizing that this was my dad's, and that he built this place, and that he organized it all, and now I'm sharing in it and growing his legacy.
That's great.
Which, like I said, feels really odd because for years, I sat back and said, "No, I'm going to wipe it away. It's no longer going to be the Don Husk show. It's going to be the Jason Husk show." That's just what was in my mind. I'm sure it's a little different for a girl with her father. My dad and I were very competitive, which is odd. Father-son kind of thing.
That's not odd, actually. That kind of is expected, I think, with a father-son relationship, right?
I mean, I would imagine that that's probably just what he knew instinctively to do with me, is to try to make me better that way.
Exactly. That's exactly what I was going to say, to make you better.
So why'd you move up to the Woodlands? What you got your whole family out there? What made you move up to the Woodlands?
So my whole family moved to the Woodlands, minus my father. So I actually went to college. I went to UTSA. Did not graduate. I went all 3 years, so college dropout here. But I went 3 years. Had a good run. When I came back to Houston, my mom had migrated up here. My sister had migrated up here. My brother was in the service for 13 years. He had just gotten out, so he landed up here, and it was really just kind of a no-brainer for me to, be close to family.
Yeah.
I love it here. I love the Woodlands. I love it.
It's a different community. But you're being from Deer Park. Did you guys ever go up there very much?
So I'm actually from Pasadena.
Okay, Pasadena.
But Pasadena, Deer Park, right? Interchangeable. Went to Deer Park High School. So I do have family in Montgomery, Dobbin. So we did constantly make trips up here to this area. But I've seen how much it's grown. I mean, even Tomball, we're talking just a few lanes, a few roads and trees, but now it's like, shoot, it's its own major city now. So, no, there's been so much change and progression up in the north part of Houston, but I really love it. I love the trees, the nature. When I go back to Pasadena now, I'm grateful to be around more trees.
Yeah,
that's really what it is.
Yeah. I mean, look, they're great parts of town. They all have their own history.
Yes,
but it's a big difference when you have water and trees versus storage tanks for oil and natural gas.
There you go.
It's a big difference.
Big difference.
Also, there's nothing in the Woodlands name, with the connotation of, Stinkadena.
Us Pasadenians, we are so used to that. But really, what's funny is I was just thinking the other day, because the weather's kind of got this cool crisp feeling now. It reminds me of fall, the beginning of fall, whatever kind of fall we get.
Right.
But living in Pasadena, when the wind shifts and it becomes fall, you get all that air from the plants, and literally fall has a certain smell in Pasadena. So it's so funny because I was remembering that the other day, and I was like, wow, I haven't smelt that in so long, but that's home.
Yeah.
That's home.
So did you, like, I really liked your landscape with Bart in it. What's it say? Is it UGK?
UGK?
In the middle of it? Have you had the opportunity to use your art to, I mean, obviously you're putting UGK in there. Did you meet the guys? Did you?
No, I haven't. So actually that was a commission. So that particular customer wanted UGK in a graffiti form with Bart spray painting it. That's the direction he gave me. So this particular client really, really loves Houston rap. He has a big appreciation for Houston rap. So that was his whole goal.
It's not Michael Beauchamps, is it?
Nope. He is one of my clients.
Because I've known him for quite some time.
You know him?
We used to live next to each other.
Okay.
Lived in townhouses just on the north side of Houston.
Okay.
Vintage Park. Him and his brother lived literally building right next to me in the townhouses.
Okay. Small world.
Yeah. I actually just talked to him this morning.
Did you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I just went and bought some pre-workout, and I had because he has Champions Nutrition.
Right.
I'm sorry, I'm derailing your.
No, let's go for it.
So I love his product. I think Kilo Labs. God, I hope that really takes off. Like it's already big, but anyway,
he's doing his thing. Right?
Yeah. So I can't take a ton of pre-workout, but and I don't know what it is. Like my best friend. So Michael has. I'm kind of rambling on this for a second. Michael has what's called Supreme and Hybrid. When they first came out, they're significantly better now, but when they first came out, like the Hybrid would be the equivalent to the Supreme, and then like the new Hybrid is just super strong. Well, the other day I just bought some brand new pre-workout. I bought some Supreme, went in, took scoop, went and did squats, and I actually posted a video of it. I had 335 pounds, and I was doing a set of 3. On the second rep, literally went all the way to the bottom. I mean, my butt's like that high from the ground, and I black out completely.
Oh my God.
With 335 pounds on my back. I mean, solid black. I couldn't hear anything, couldn't see anything, but it was like my body froze. And but all of a sudden brain kicked back in and said, "Hey, dumbass, you're about to fucking die under this. You better stand up." And so I shot up and I ended up doing my 3rd rep. And I'm texting him like, "Hey man, which one's stronger?" Okay, good. I got the lighter one. And I think what it was just a new compound because I had been using some of the other stuff that and so my body was just used to these older things. So he's updated a little bit, but anyway,
glad you made it through that.
Yeah, like it was. I was so surprised by it, but it was like I said, it was the product is great. It doesn't make me feel tingly. I work out, I used to work out 6 days a week.
Mm-hmm.
Now I work out at 40. I work out 3 to 4 days a week.
Okay.
His product doesn't make me feel tingly. It doesn't make me feel like I'm like this. My brain's going like 1,000 miles an hour to begin with, like most artists' brains do. You're constantly little things going through there. So his stuff doesn't make me crazy. Now, my best friend, he has to take the stronger one because I tease him. I said his brain stops functioning sometimes, so he needs that extra thing to kick boost. In. Yeah. We grew up skating. We grew up inline speed skating together. So
okay,
whole other thing. But anyway, Michael's one of your clients.
He is.
But he was not the one that bought this landscape with UGK.
He's not the one. I'm actually working on his right now.
So, oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, because Michael is big. Everything Houston. Like everything he posts is Houston this, Houston that. He loves Houston musicians, rappers, all that stuff. So, okay. So you're working on Michael's. You can't give the name of the commission of the other guy?
Oh, I certainly can. So that's Jason Davis. Shout out to Jason Davis. So he took a big chance on me, I would say back in 2020. And wanted me to create that piece for him, which was pretty big, if you can tell from the pictures. So
was it like 6 or 8 foot wide or something like that?
That was a 40 by 60. It was pretty huge.
Okay.
No, big. That was the lean, the rocket.
Yeah,
with the coating.
Yeah.
So the other
we
one
should
was
explain
probably a
that
25 by.
Here in Houston, we call it in rap music, some people watching this are not going to know that we're talking about lean is codeine, and Lil Wayne would put it, with Sprite and stuff like that, but that's lean. So sorry,
that's lean codeine.
To the non-rap aficionados
Purple
watching,
Sprite, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm sorry. The landscape one.
Yes.
How big was that thing?
So it was about a 30 by 40. So it was. Yeah, 30 by 40.
Okay.
I'm probably the worst with measurements. I don't know if that's like every artist, so let me know. But I'm really terrible with measurements. I actually have to write it on the back of the canvas so I can remember, or I keep a tape measure so I can quickly do it. So that wasn't Michael's, but Michael, he definitely has a request in right now that we're working on. So it's gonna be a mashup of Houston and Kilo Labs.
Cool.
So it's gonna be really, really unique.
Cool.
But yeah, I can't wait to show that.
Is it gonna be for like the store or his new facility, or is it gonna be for his house?
I think it's for his house.
Cool.
I think it's for his house, but maybe we'll create another one for the facility. I think you should do like an entire wall. I think so. So I actually have a mural that I'm working on right now. So. That's the next step really, is to start doing murals. So I like where you're going with that.
I think you should. That'd be great. Well,
absolutely.
I saw it was ironic. I have a friend, Amber Coyle, from here, lives out in LA, artist, actress, all that stuff. Beautiful model. She posted this thing that I thought was so cool. It was this massive mural on a wall where there was this huge tree that came over the top of it. And the wall was probably 10, 12 feet tall, and the tree probably 25, 30 feet tall. But this canopy, they crafted it and they rounded it, and then they would change the shape of it, and then they would repaint the mural on the wall so it was a head, it was a face, and then the tree coming over the top would be the hair.
Love it.
And like, and it was, a lot of it was like prominent, Black women, things like that.
Love it.
Yeah. I was like, man, that's a really great idea. Like I love that kind of stuff because I'm not creative in that way. Like,
love it.
Like I like doing this, these kinds of things like
yes.
during COVID, growing up, I was in construction. So I liked to build. And so I would reverse engineer things made of steel and build them out of wood.
So cool.
So like I would build gym equipment. Like I was building custom gym equipment for people out of wood. I'd have to put steel on there, of course, for reinforcing and things like that. But I can do that. But I marvel at like that's what caught my eye, is what you do, like, is so interesting to me. Do you have like, do you start with a premise on anything, or is it when I guess someone commissions it, like you said, the UGK one is you literally started with the concept of you wanted Bart Simpson spraying UGK somewhere.
Yeah. So, okay. So with art, I mean, every artist does it so different, but my best work comes from not being planned, not planning it out, just doing it. So, sometimes I'll start out with a general idea or an image in my head, and I do my best to recreate the image that I'm visualizing onto the canvas. So, yeah, sometimes I start out with a plan and I know exactly what I'm doing. Other times I'm like, I think I have a direction in which way this may go, but let's just go with it and see. Um, and that's the thing too. I don't have a style. A lot of artists really they focus on finding a style, which is great. More power to you. I don't have a style. I don't think I do. I I like to try it all. I like to try it all. I think I don't want to be put in a box. So as an artist, that's what art is. Art is branching out, breaking the rules. There's no limits. There's no rules to art. So I'm not worried on finding a style. More so, I just want to create something that's cool. That
That's awesome.
that really creates an emotion in the person that's viewing it.
Yeah, I guess that is the goal, right?
Exactly.
Is to evoke something, whether it's love or anger or fear,
Yes.
something.
Yes. Yes. And you know what I love? So I get asked all the times. I had a recent show. It was the Donkey Mom's show. So shout out to Donkey Mom and Donkey Boy Alex. So Alex, Donkey Boy, really well known Houston artist, kind of found me on social media and invited me out to that show, and that also helped kind of put me on the map with the art community in Houston. So huge blessing there. Really grateful for that. I'll say
Donkey Mom show.
Donkey Mom and Donkey Boy.
Okay.
They do so much for the Houston art community. They absolutely deserve a shout out.
Hold on, let's see. Because
Yes.
we can pull up yours here in a minute. Let's see. I gotta go.
Yep, shout them out.
Here we go.
And today's Donkey Mom's birthday.
Donkey Mom.
So there's 2 E's.
Oh, there we go. That's it. Well, Donkey
There we
Boy.
go. There's Donkey Boy. That's Alex. That's Donkey Mom's son.
Okay, so we have it's DONKEEBOY, all one word, on Instagram there.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
So he really does a lot for the community.
I recognize him.
Yeah. And his work is phenomenal. That speaks for itself.
Wow, that's cool.
Amazing.
That's like a mixture of. Yeah, well, I was gonna say that's Van Gogh.
That is exactly what that is.
Yeah,
That
I was
is
gonna say
Van
it looked
Gogh.
like Vincent Van Gogh, especially with the ear. Maybe people don't recognize, Van Gogh cut his ear off.
Yeah. So.
That's awesome.
Amazing artist.
That's pretty cool. I like that.
Yeah. Huge Houston flair. And they were actually so. Donkey Boy took a whole group of Houston artists out to Art Basel in Miami.
Oh yeah.
Just putting Houston on the map. We deserve it.
Yeah.
We deserve it. Our art community is so massive and so talented. I mean, there are a ton of Houston talented artists out there.
Yeah. Yours is let's go here. Cuz I want to show everybody what we're talking about with yours. What's yours?
So we're right there below.
Oh, there it is. Okay, yeah, cuz I know I searched for it on my phone, which is funny that it links it over that way because I searched for it on my phone. So here we're gonna find this thing. Or is it on your? Oh, there we go. Here's this bad boy right here. So that guy, that's okay. So she got more lean over here. We got that.
Yeah.
We got lean in there. Was all of this behind it? So I was trying to figure out, was any of this intended to be? Because obviously, okay, look. I have a very close friend who is in the graffiti world. And obviously, hey, you can watch movies and stuff. Covering up someone else's art with your own art is is a big no-no.
Yes.
So I was trying to figure out, was the intention of the stuff in the background here, was that supposed to be as if UGK was being painted over it, or?
You got it exactly right.
Yeah. It was like he's putting his mark on it and
he was definitely
taking over.
So that was intended, and I love. So I love that was something I was gonna say when I brought up Donkey Boys, is being asked about my art. So people ask me all the time, "What did you mean by that? What did you mean by that?" But I love to see your interpretation. So what's funny is that's exactly my intention. Is I wanted this to look like a wall that had been there for quite some time, that maybe just random artists came up and just kind of did a little something there, something here, and so that's exactly how that came out.
Okay, well, I'm you know, it's like one of my friends called me a cement head, so I can pick up a little bit, but I was checking it out because you got so much in it. Over here is, you know, still tipping.
Yeah.
A lot of people, you know, we got Screwston over here.
SUC.
Yeah.
Next to it.
Okay, so I wanted to ask about this. So your name that you on social media.
Here we go.
Okay, is Duarte, Melissa Duarte?
Duarte.
Duarte.
It's Spanish.
Okay.
Yes.
But you go by on here, I see Moody.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that was your father's name.
So my whole thing, I was previously married. So my whole thing has always been, especially since my father passed, I've always signed my art with that name because I started, you know, over 10 years ago now. I've always signed with Moody, so I want to continue to sign with that, and I just have not figured out a way to migrate the social media name that people know me by. It's also still my legal name. So yeah, that's how we sign the art.
Well, that's a garage door right there, so that kind of gives me a reference. So you're probably, so you're about 4 feet. I'm looking at those panels right there. Hey, I'm in construction. This is my problem with art is you are a little more flair. I'm measure 3 times and still worry about it after I cut it.
Right.
You know, that kind of thing. Whereas you know, you're going to be a little more wild with it. So was this a show you were doing right here?
Yeah. So that was the Mike's Up, Masks Up, Mike's Out show in 2020. So
this right here you tagged. Okay.
Yeah.
All
Masks Up, Mike's Out. Shout out to them as well. So that was a poetry slam and art show.
Okay.
And amazing show. Just amazing people there. Talented artists, talented poetry. I mean, couldn't say any more good things about that show.
Yeah.
I think they have another one coming up soon. So
hold on. Let's see if they got one.
For that.
Beautiful thing about putting this TV in here is I get to do a lot of these different stuff like this. So we got this one here. This is looks like the third poetry third annual. Well, there's music to it, but we're not getting it doesn't have a date or anything to it. I can't see that.
Yeah, so I think they're really just kind of giving a little heads up there.
Yeah.
But so what I love about Masks Up, Mike's Out is it's a mashup of creativity. You not only have the poetry slam, but you have the art, and mashing that up together is sweet. When you put any multiple creatives in one room, you have the best vibes ever.
Well, I could imagine. I mean, you guys, it'd be like kind of almost like getting me and my buddies we grew up with skating, Olympians, things like that. You get us in the room and we start coming up with ways to make the federation better, things like that.
Feeding off that energy.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. Okay, so I'm gonna show this because this is the one that caught my eye from the very beginning. This guy. Okay. I loved everything about it. Now, was this a commission piece?
This is not a commission piece. This is available for purchase. I'm going to create prints. I've actually had a few people reach out about the original. So I'll create prints and be on the lookout for that. I'll announce when that's available. But yes, that bad boy is available for purchase at the moment.
All right. I like that one. Well, that's what caught my eye. That was the original reason I reached out and I said, man, okay, there's something going on here. And I just saw that picture. I don't know how it came up. It might, hey, our phones are always listening. It could have been at some point, maybe a couple weeks ago, I text Michael and you guys are friends. So kind of threw that out there. But anyway, so Melissa _ Duarte _ art.
Absolutely.
Okay, cool. All right. Well, everybody needs to check that one out.
Yes.
So I wanted to kind of just, if you could, when you started doing this, like, again, was it only for the art? Like you just like you said, your mom was a painter.
Right.
Like, did you, again, like I go back and I have this thought process that when I started working for my father, that again, maybe it's a guy thing, but I always had it in my mind, I want to be better than you. Did you ever have that thought? Like, obviously you revere your parents, you look at them, you're great, but did you ever have that thought in your mind when you went to create something, I'm going to do something that's better than my mom?
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Absolutely not. So,
So I need to go see a therapist. Got it.
No. I'll say this. Artists, I think, are the most self-deprecating people. We are so hard on ourselves, and I could be speaking for myself perhaps, but I have a lot of artist friends that say the same thing. We are so critical of our work, and I think that bug caught my mom. So I actually never grew up watching her actively paint. But there was a point where she got her paints out and she wanted to paint. It was a CD cover of a Garth Brooks CD. And it had this really cool stormy cloud landscape look. So she went to go create that. I thought it was the most gorgeous thing, and all I heard her say was how terrible it was. And she never painted after that. But now, being an artist, I see what it is. We are so critical of our work, but it's because you're being so vulnerable. When you're putting your work out there, it's at the mercy of everyone's opinions. Art is subjective. It's not going to be everybody's vibe. It's not going to be everybody's taste. So being vulnerable is difficult. And that's one part of being an artist that puts your work out there for everyone to see. It's hard. So we are very much difficult. We're very much critical of our work.
There's Dad.
Yeah, there's Dad.
Hey. What's up, champ?
Best guy ever.
Yeah.
And so scroll up to that landscape there with the poppies. So what I love about art, and this was before 2020 just made everything difficult with COVID, but I went to a senior facility and I painted that live for them and just talked with them, and they asked me questions, and I found out quite a few of them there were artists themselves. So I cannot say enough about art and just what it does for the world, for people in general. I mean, it's therapy. As we know, art therapy exists. It just creates so much emotion and evokes so much thought. I live for art. So when I'm not painting, I actually collect art. I will buy art from auctions, and I'll flip them. Or I will hold on to them. So there I was trying out palette knives. As you can see, I was
going to say, this is very Bob Ross.
It's
very Bob Ross right here.
Bob Ross. Shout out to Bob Ross. Yeah, so a bunch of happy accidents happened on that canvas.
Yeah.
But no, so when I look back at that now, I'm like, I don't really like that. So it's yeah, being an artist is so interesting, where you see your progression and you're so critical.
Do you go back?
So critical.
Do you? I mean, I'm assuming you still have some, like a good chunk of old artwork.
I do.
Yeah, and you look at it and say, do you appreciate the lesson from it, or you just look at it and say, I mean, because it's not my cup of tea, but I can appreciate what it took to do all this, because I know I never could. But I can look back at like some things I did, like some original shows I did here, and be like, oh, that's shit. I want to, I'm like, I want to delete that shit off the internet. And then at the same time, I'm like, no, there's a lesson learned there.
Yeah. So nobody is good at anything the first time they do it.
Definitely not.
I don't know of any major athlete that was just born out of the womb being able to make amazing free throws or, being a Michael Jordan in the game. So it's all practice. It's all doing. So really, and I have a few friends that are kind of dabbling in art, and I try to tell them, don't think too much about it. Just do it. Yeah, you're going to mess up. Yeah, you're going to create some things you wish you can set on fire, But it's all part of the process, really. And I got to be honest.
That's really cool.
In a lot of the mistakes I've made, I have found techniques.
Yeah.
And different ways to do things. So would I even call them mistakes? Absolutely not. I would just call them learning processes, learning techniques.
When you went to UTSA, did you go to get a business degree, or did you? Yeah.
I went for criminal justice.
Okay. Oh wow.
Yes.
Interesting. All right.
So I was really, and I still am.
What was your goal? Did you want to be a corrections officer?
So I started out wanting to be in the FBI, and that was a very big goal of mine.
Okay.
I did everything that I needed to do in high school and leading up to college to make sure that I would get my foot in the door with the FBI.
So no drugs.
All
right.
However,
since then.
However, college really changed that for me. So yeah, I actually, went to college and explored a little bit.
Yeah.
Freedom. The freedom bug got me.
Uh-huh.
And, but my life didn't end up in the FBI, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that. So
that's
really,
an interesting thing, though.
Isn't it? Such a different path.
Yeah. Where'd that come from? Like, wanting to go to the FBI.
Well, okay, so my brother was in the military for 13 years.
What branch?
Army.
Okay.
When I was in kindergarten, he joined. So we're 12 years apart. And my brother was a lot like my father figure. He was very much gone a lot, as you can imagine, being away for 13 years. But I don't ever feel like he was away. He was constantly sending me things in the mail, calling me. I'm talking best big brother ever. There was a few times he surprised me from being on leave and coming home and just doing that whole surprise thing you see the videos of. But so that inspired me, seeing him do all that. But really, I've always had a passion for, I don't want to say justice, but standing up for those that can't stand up for themselves. So when it comes to corrections, I've taken a huge liking to corrections, but in changing corrections, not in being a part of the problem, because let's be honest, the system is broken.
Sure.
It's broken. There's a lot of innocent people in prison that shouldn't be. And if I were to go back and do it all over again, I would focus my energy on really trying to become someone that could help people in prison that shouldn't be there get out.
Have you ever looked into the Innocence Project?
I look into that all the time.
Yeah.
I very much keep up with the stories that are there. And it's amazing. So that is exactly, if I could go back and do it all over again, I would do exactly what they're doing with the Freedom Project.
You should, Joe Rogan recently did an interview with the director, I guess, of the Innocence Project.
Oh wow, I have to look at that.
Yeah, he was on. I think they put the show up last week, and it was really neat. I mean, for me personally, I like it. I mean, it's pertinent to me. Reason I ask, because I myself spent 4 years there.
Wow. Okay.
So I understand it completely.
Yeah.
But I was guilty. Not of everything. I was guilty of what I actually went for, and did my time. But I can certainly appreciate it because I have had conversations with people. Now, look, I'll tell you, I had a misdemeanor charge that I ended up getting 10 years in prison for.
Wow.
Because I pissed off the judge.
Wow.
It was literally criminal mischief was my charge. And I pissed off the judge, told him to go fuck himself in open court. He didn't like it, and he sentenced me to 10 years in prison. So I definitely get that side of things.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, I got to bring this up because this is a part of the problem. Yeah. Now add racism into that, and then you have a whole systematic issue.
Yeah.
It needs to be fixed. It's awful. It's wrong, and I don't think anyone should stand for it.
So I'll say, because obviously being there, I certainly saw that you would have guys that, for example, I've had 3 people on the show that I was in prison with. First one, guy, great friends with him to this day. We talk all the time. Him and his wife are on Instagram, and we constantly text. Robbed a bank, actually more towards like Anahuac, Baytown. Robbed a Bank of America, got into a gunfight, got 25 years, did 13 and a half years. But he shot at the cops a lot.
Wow.
Another guy who was only in a car. He was in the car with somebody. Ended up getting he got sent away. He was just in a car with a guy, and the guy, as the car's moving, the guy jumps out while the car's moving, the driver. And so he's sitting in there like, what the fuck? So all of a sudden the car finally comes to a stop. Like he gets out of the car. Cops thought he was going to run. So he ended up getting like 3 different charges because he's in the car. Again, first 2 I just told you about are 2 black guys. Third guy, who's actually coming back in on March 6th to do another show. White guy, standing outside of a gas station. Never went inside the gas station. His brother was inside robbing the gas station. He was standing outside of it with a baseball bat. Never went inside. Never threatened anybody. Never touched anybody. Was a lookout. And he got like 12 years. He's a white guy. So I can definitively say that I look at it, and I've seen the stories. Race certainly plays a factor. But I can also tell you this. The day I was sentenced, there was a young black male in there in the courtroom. Before they brought me up, this boy was 19. I say boy because I was 35 and I was 30 years old, so he's a kid to me. This kid was 19 years old, had been on probation since he was 17, had violated over 30 times. Over 30 times. One of his requirements were to stay in school. He just was truant. Was caught multiple times with cocaine, failed drug tests, marijuana, all this other stuff. 30 separate violations in a 2-year period. The judge gave him 2 years in prison. 2 years. 30 separate violations. So I can't say, look, like I said, I took my whooping for what I know I did. Race certainly plays a factor into it. I just had a guy on yesterday, Narada Jones. He's a black guy. And we had a great conversation yesterday about racism. Him being a black man doesn't believe in systemic racism from the United States. You know what I mean? Are there systems that have racism involved? Absolutely. Are there bad judges out there? Abso-fucking-lutely. There are shit judges out there. There's bad cops. There's bad firefighters. There's bad politicians. There's bad business owners. Does that mean all cops are bad? No. Are all judges bad? No. I got a guy who's a judge in Houston. Who I met him and his family when I took my son to Disneyland. Just so happened to come across him. He was a city council member, and he ran and became a judge. Great guy, great family guy, has had no issues. Anyway, no controversies, at least I should say. He hasn't had any of that with any of his sentencing and stuff like that. But you could literally have right next to him another judge that's a complete shithead that hates hates black people.
But well, yeah.
Well, look, we'll just kind of narrow this down. The fact that the black population is much larger in prison than any other race. They are overrepresented in prison. I think that's unfair. I do know of many instances where white individuals got much more leniency. Again, I can look at it from this perspective and say, hey, I got probably way more than I should have. So I can probably relate a little bit.
Yeah, it's so much more. It's so much more. But yeah, it's so much more. That's a subject that I'm very passionate about, and probably better for another conversation.
I understand. Yeah, no, I get it. Like I can understand from a lot of different perspectives. Probably before you came on here, you had no idea that.
No,
yeah.
no, I didn't know.
Being in prison, things like that, and I openly talk about it.
Should have asked.
No, you would never. I mean, I have, it sounds so weird you say it. I have black friends. The first thing, I never look at them and say, hey, how long did you do in prison? It's not a common thing that you should think of anybody,
Well, right.
Just of anybody, right. Black, white, Hispanic, whatever. But I get it, and it sucks. I mean, I've been on both sides of it, so I understand. I grew up spoiled, rich, wealthy white kid, but a Jew in South Texas is kind of rough.
Yes, but I do want to make a distinction, and then I think I've said what I said. A lot of times, white people create or equate growing up poor or tough as kind of the same, but it's not. It's not. We still have it so much different. So, being poor as a white person doesn't mean you didn't grow up with privilege. You still grew up with privilege. And that's really kind of all I want to say. I'll leave it on the table there, and then we'll be done and move past to maybe something else.
I gotcha.
I'm very passionate about that. And
without going down the road of getting into the ins and outs of racism and all that stuff, what do you do? I mean, you're passionate about it. Do you do anything directly with like the Innocence Projects, that kind of stuff, or work in that realm?
No, I don't. Other than being aware of what's going on. So, which is the first step of being able to create change, is being aware of what's going on in the first place. So being able to spread awareness. I do what I can with me. I only have so much time on my hands, but I promise you, whatever time I spent, I'm normally volunteering or helping in some sort of way. So, I mean, when creativity isn't on the forefront, it's definitely helping and volunteering. That's the other bulk of my passion there. I have huge goals that I want to do with my art when it comes to helping people. So it's going to mesh very soon here in the near future.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. I think a big part, and I reference Joe Rogan a lot. I'm not sure what you think about him. The best part about his show, to me, I don't like every guest that comes on, but every guest that comes on, I learn something different point of view. And what he does is the same way, kind of what I'm doing here, is having an open, honest conversation with somebody. I can't make you go down a road that you don't want to go down, but I'm open to have any discussion.
Boundaries.
But I certainly respect you not wanting to go there. But having a show like some of the guests that come on his show, having those open and difficult conversations.
Agreed.
Those are important.
Agreed.
Because I tell somebody this, and I actually had this conversation with somebody, is that perfect example. So as we talked about in the beginning, I have my I know it's not all the same. But spending 4 years in prison, mm-hmm. and the white people don't want to talk to me because I'm Jewish, I can only hang out with the black guys and the Hispanic guys. Gives me a very good perspective on what racism is. But I've also, only from their perspective, because they can explain it to me. But also having that put upon me because of the color of my skin, I got a good concept. I didn't grow up that way. But coming from growing up with, I can recognize I grew up with privilege. I was a white, rich kid. I got it. I understood that. So having those conversations, but sitting back, I can have a viewpoint and say support a particular political candidate. We won't go into politics, but I can have that point of view, not agree with your perspective on it, but still respect your ability to say it,
right,
and express it, and we can have a good, a nice discourse about, hey, I learned something from what you were having to say. There's an individual that I grew up with in the skating world, and simply because of the color of my skin, he believed that I was this, and this. Never having a direct conversation with me. And I'm not the kind of person, like, if we're going to have a negative conversation, like, we can do it in person. We can have a conversation in person. Doing it through text, all of that's lost. The inflection of someone's voice. I can sit here and have a conversation and disagree and not scream and yell, but just because I use caps as emphasis, it sounds bad. So I would never do that with him. He ends up watching one of the shows, and I'm not a fan of the N-word. Like, I've never used it. I backed that up. I actually told Narad about this yesterday. I know the one time in my life I've ever used that word. I was in 4th grade, and I was sitting next to my friend April, who was a little black girl, and we're friends to this day. I didn't know what the fuck I was saying. I was in 4th grade, but I can remember to this day the look on her face of when I used that. It was like in a nursery. It wasn't directed at her. I was repeating like a rhyme that I had heard from somebody.
Yeah, where'd you learn it?
I learned it at home.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
100% learned it at home. I mean, that's where so I came in and I said it in front of her, just singing this little whatever, and I didn't recognize what I had said until I saw the look on her face. And the look on her face is ingrained in my memory. I don't agree. I don't agree with, I'm happy that Joe Rogan apologized for using it. That's cool. Good for you.
So I'm not up to speed on that.
Okay. So
I'm not up to speed on that.
So we'll back up a little bit on this. Are you aware of the controversy with Joe Rogan bringing on Dr. Robert Malone? And
No.
Okay. So he's on Spotify now. He used to only be on YouTube. Well, not only on YouTube, but he posted his shows on YouTube, and then the audio would go to like Apple Podcasts and stuff like that. Well, he switched over to Spotify and only puts clips up on YouTube now. Okay. On Spotify, it's a pay service, essentially. You have to download the app, have a subscription for a lot of different stuff. Anyway, it's unrestricted. He's allowed to have whatever conversation he wants on there. So he brings on, his shows are typically based on having conversations with everybody of every point of view. For example, last week he had on 2 climatologists back to back. One was essentially having a discussion saying, well, you know what? The polar ice caps really aren't melting, and here's the data to prove it. And then the very next one he comes on, that guy at some point in the past worked for BP, and that's what the big criticism about him is. The second guy he brought on was a professor at Texas A&M, and was showing, this is what is going on. Renewable energy is causing this issue. This is how it affected the freeze from last year. So differing opinions. He does the same thing with everything across the board. He ended up having on Dr. Robert Malone and Peter, 2 guys that essentially are, one guy is the inventor of the mRNA technology, which is what the vaccine is based on. And then the other guy is the most published cardiologist in history. So from medical standpoint, they both have some type of authority to discuss COVID and the current climate and efficacy of the vaccine and stuff like that. I'm not. I'm an idiot. I'm just some dumb that has a show. I don't know. Whatever. I choose not to get vaccinated. No judgment against anybody else who chooses to. We live in a free society kind of thing. But because he had those two people on his show, all of a sudden, you had a lot of people trying to say he was spouting misinformation. Neil Young, and it wasn't Joe Rogan, and let's back that up even further. Joe Rogan's from Boston, lived in L.A. He's made it very clear he's never voted conservative. He has voted across the board 100% for liberal causes. He's all for raising taxes if it goes to people like homeless and, drug issues, things like that. All for that across the board. Had Bernie Sanders on his show, openly said that he is going to vote for Bernie Sanders or Tulsi Gabbard, who's, by the way, I probably would have voted for her too if she had gotten the nomination. Trump would have probably lost 50% of the people that voted for him the second time if Tulsi Gabbard would have been nominated. She's great. She's fantastic. Anyway, Joe is in no way a conservative individual. But he likes guns, and he's for free, open discourse.
Yeah. He's typically associated with conservative males.
100%.
Yes.
Because he likes fighting. He's UFC. He's into jiu-jitsu, hunts, eats meat. So it's stereotyping. But this is who he is, and he's made these declarations. So having these people on automatically made certain organizations believe that he was spreading misinformation when he's already had on 7 doctors talking about the seriousness of COVID, the effectiveness, the efficacy of the vaccine, that it, in all very proactive, positive ways.
Okay.
He had on 7 doctors that had differing opinions than Dr. Robert Malone and the other guy. Nothing was said about them, but all of a sudden these 2 guys are out there, and all of a sudden people are saying misinformation, you should have never let them on. That's not way free and open conversation occurs by saying, hey, the other side can't talk. That doesn't work that way. You have to, there's got to be both sides. Learn something, take away, still disagree, whatever. So Neil Young comes out. Neil Young says, Spotify, you either take Joe Rogan off the air or you remove all of my music from your platform. Spotify within 30 minutes says, no problem, Neil, bye. Took all of his music off. So Spotify very clearly said, CEO put it out there. He says, look, we may not agree with all of the information and everything that comes across our platform. He says, not everybody likes all the music that we put out there. Not everybody likes this kind of rap or this kind of rap or this kind of rock. Look, I listen to ridiculously screaming rock music, but I can appreciate Collective Soul that we're listening to right now. I can appreciate Garth Brooks. This is just what I choose to listen to. Whatever. So the guy from Spotify, so the CEO of Spotify says, we may not like all the content that's out there, but that shouldn't stop someone from being able to create it. That would be no different than someone's looking at your art and saying, well, you got lean in it. I think it's fantastic. I love the reference in there. I'm from Houston. But someone else may look at it and say, well, you're promoting drug use or whatever. Mm-hmm. That's their interpretation of it. But I love it. I think it's great. Someone else may not. Whatever. And that's basically what he was saying about Joe Rogan. So you had all these other people that were lining up. Well, all of a sudden, he's in the news. I mean, Joe Biden, the president of the United States, came out, spoke on national television saying that Spotify should censor Joe Rogan. The president of the United States saying that a U.S. citizen should be censored. Unprecedented. Well,
I thought we were keeping this light, Jason.
Well, I'm sorry. I'm explaining the look. I wouldn't care if Trump did that shit. I would not support Trump or George Bush or Obama, and I'm a big supporter of our commander in chief. I don't care who he is. Obama, Bush, Biden, Trump. I don't care. Anyway, because Spotify would not censor him, they agreed to put a disclaimer on his shows when it discussed COVID. Because he has comedians on there and stuff. It would be like me having you on and we talk about art, and I got to put a disclaimer on there for COVID. So anyway, all of a sudden, because that did not work, they did not get him off Spotify. Spotify wouldn't cancel him. All of a sudden, it comes up. There's this video. It's a montage of all these times that Joe Rogan has said the N-word. And I don't excuse it. His answer is, and he put an apology out there, and hey, I'm not going to agree with it. I'm never going to agree with the use of that word in any context whatsoever. I had Narada on yesterday, and I was joking around with him. I said, hey, when we start this show, the very first thing I'm going to say is, what's up, my... And I was like, there's no way I'm going to do it because that's just not me. But anyway, all of a sudden there's this montage that comes up but it's been out there for years. And it's a video montage of all the times he has said the N-word on his show. They end up removing 70 episodes of his 1,800 podcasts that he's done for the last 14 or 15 years. And so that's where it's at. That's obviously bringing the discussion of race and open discourse, and COVID and politics all to the forefront.
Right.
And so anyway, yeah, I've made it very clear on several of these shows that I'm not in favor of the use of that word.
No.
I just don't think it's appropriate. I don't think it's we talked about it yesterday. Have you seen the interview with Delroy Lindo?
No.
Okay.
I haven't.
It'd be hard to pull up here, but anyway, great actor. Older black man, probably in his late 60s, early 70s. He was the cop in Gone in 60 Seconds, the Nicolas Cage movie. Great actor. And he's sitting on a panel, and they're having a discussion of the use of the N-word.
Okay.
And Delroy's over here, and the guy that's talking to him over here, he says, well, and this is a white guy saying it to him. He says, why is it okay for you to use any word you would like, but I can't? And Delroy says, no. Use the word. Say the word. And the guy says, I can't. You know the moment that word came out of my mouth on this show that the show would be shut down and I would be fired. He says, no, we live in America. You want to say the word? Say the word. I'll say it with you. And we all know that that's not going to happen. I don't agree with the use of the word. I don't. I'm going to say that.
Listen, we can get off the subject pretty quickly. Let me just squash it. No. That word's not okay for white people to say. It will never be okay for white people to say. We should not want to say it, and that's okay.
Absolutely.
So let's move past that, and let's that's really all that needs to be said. There is no way, shape, or form that it's ever okay to say that word, and if you do say it, then you're opening yourself up to the consequences, and as you should. And that's really all I want to say about that. I don't agree with racism at all.
Sure.
It's very much a problem in today's society. It's prevalent. It's an issue. We're in Black History Month right now. So,
but see, I had that conversation with Narada.
Right.
Why limit yourself to 1 month?
No,
they're Americans. Let's celebrate 365 days a year like everybody else with the rest of us.
That is, yeah, okay. But historically, they're not recognized as much. So, yes, we can do that every month, and we should. But we should definitely be teaching our kids the history that was not taught properly in schools.
Sure.
And our whatever history we call that is taught in schools is not the proper history. And this is not what I wanted to come on here
I
to
know.
talk
Look,
about.
I told you sometimes they just go in different directions.
So here's the thing. I don't want me to be associated with controversial topics. But I am very much a person that is, I'm going to stand up for what's right. And I don't stand for racism in any way, shape, or form. I'm never going to allow that. But I also don't want this show to be all about that. Let's give credit where credit is due. It's Black History Month. Let's learn a little bit about some amazing Black Americans that
Agreed.
we don't know about, that weren't taught.
Agreed.
And that's, I want the show to be kept light. All the controversial things, that's great. But let's keep that to another guest, because that's not me. My energy right now is, yes, we can't ignore the controversial things that are there. That is also being, you talk about someone that's not helping the cause. That could be an issue if you're not noticing what's out there and what's happening, right? Okay, so I notice what's happening, but I don't want that to be what this show is all about. Let's keep it light, because that's the time I'm at in my life right now, where I've gone through so much grief in the last couple of years that I would love to talk about my art as much as possible.
Well, I look, honestly, that's why I originally reached out to you, because I think your art is fantastic. I see things in it. I go back to this. I was a very artistic individual when I was younger. Went through a bunch of stuff in my 20s, and it just disappeared. While actually I was in prison, surrounded by people that were not like me, that I didn't look like, didn't grow up like, it resurfaced. A guy I spent every day with, we ate dinner with, we ate lunch and dinner together every single day, is a guy named Peacemaker. I was in his first rap video when I finally came home. He wrote 3,000 songs while he was there. And it triggered this art back in me, which turned into me building and painting and eventually this show. And so I looked at yours, and I could see there was a major transition. And then I saw a thing with your father. Obviously, that had a huge effect on stuff. But I noticed it before that. And that's what triggered my mind about your stuff, about what you do. That it's not, the reason I asked, do you actually sell this stuff? Which clearly you do. There was much more feeling to what you were doing rather than a paycheck. That's what it felt like to me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Like I said earlier, money or not, I'll always create. And yeah, so I think it's, being a child. Let's talk about the inner child a little bit, because I think that's really kind of what being an artist is. You're living out your inner child. Mm-hmm. So, perfect example. I started out with those pours. These actually sold quite well. But it was really just about letting the inner child kind of just go with whatever it's feeling. And that's what an artist is it's the person still living out their inner child, where a lot of people just kind of forget that. And corporate America just, you get caught in the rat race.
Kind of crushes it a little bit.
It crushes your soul. You get caught in the rat race, and then you just stop creating. I think we all have a creative element to us. It's just a matter of finding it and showcasing it. Like you mentioned your metalwork. Is that?
Well, I mean, I could build pretty much anything out of wood that originally was in metal. I like to replicate it.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So big thing, I had done this my entire life, but a big thing was obviously gym equipment during the pandemic. Gyms were closed. People still wanted to work out. You couldn't buy anything from. Right. So it started out as me doing it for myself. I worked out every single day. So I started fixing a need of my own. And I was like, okay, well, what's in my wheelhouse? I know how to weld. I don't have this. I don't have that, but I've got this tool, this tool, this tool. So, okay, what can I do with what I've got? When I was a kid, I grew up, I was a speed skater. I've never done drugs of any kind in my life, ever. Not even lean. But I always had this thing that I had drawn in graffiti art style above my door, and it was Latin for do your best with what God gave you. And so I've always run with that kind of mentality. Hey, this is what I know. This is what I know. This is kind of let's fix that kind of thing. So anyway, I was like, oh, I need a rack. I need this. I need this. So I started building. Yeah. Next thing I know, people are like, can you make me one? And I actually have one in this house. It's down in my garage, and I just keep it there as a reminder. But it's a folding rack system that folds up and flat against the garage wall, but can come out 2-3 feet so you can work out just like you're in a gym, do all your other exercises. And I started building arms. Like, I mean, you could literally replicate any exercise you ever needed to do in a gym with this system. Anyway.
No, that's cool. But a few things stuck out. So you used what you had, right? You found a need. So let's talk about entrepreneurship, because that's kind of where we're going with those keywords there. But yeah, so painting for me, I do love being creative, but I have a huge entrepreneurial spirit about me, and being my own boss has always been my goal. So right now I don't do full-time art. It is not because I couldn't or can't. It is because I very much enjoy the career that I've built for myself at this point, and I'm trying to find a good safe point to jump off and branch out into my own. But so finding what you have and a skill set, and then being able to earn money, was just a benefit of the whole art thing. So as I said, money or not, I'll always create. But me having an entrepreneurial spirit, I would absolutely love to utilize my skill set in painting, to build a business.
Now, do you have a regular day job?
I do. I'm actually an engineering recruiter.
Oh, smarty.
So
okay.
I recruit high-level engineers. I mean, we're talking CFD engineers to aerodynamics engineers. So I'm always talking to high-level math people all day. I love it. I learned so much from them.
That's cool. I like this.
Yeah.
Well, I actually had an idea. It's my oldest son is in college, and I had actually seen something, and it was a mixture. And so tell me if you do something like this. Do you see something over here and say like I'll explain. I don't have the words for it, so I'll kind of explain the two parts of this.
Relate.
So yeah, so my son was obsessed with, or is obsessed with Disney. He's 19, started college. I mean, he's published 3 books. His first book he published at 12, and it was, I mean, he had to get permission from Disney to write it. I had seen a street artist using like fluorescent pink paint, essentially on a black brick wall, painted black brick wall, and did a big old Mickey, huge Mickey on there, but did with pink, and then outlined it with, and the pink line was maybe like 2-3 inches, and then the white was maybe like 1 inch right in the center of it, making Mickey all this other stuff. I'd seen that. I'm like, I love that. I love street art. Big thing. I'll just, again, kind of like where the stories go with a lot of this stuff. I was in Denver in September with a buddy of mine. We went up there to watch Texas A&M game play Colorado. We had to take a train from Denver Airport to downtown. And the whole way there, every building, all the trains, all the walls are covered in graffiti. And I probably have, I wish I could pull it up on here, but I have probably 300 photos from that 1 hour ride of all the graffiti art. So I really just, I dig that a lot.
Love it.
Well, then I saw, back to the Mickey thing, I saw somebody who had taken a mirror. It was actually a friend of mine, she on Instagram, her girlfriend, her partner, was using I'd seen these mirrors, and she's actually an artist as well. She was using these mirrors, like really nice framed mirrors, and using spray paint, and it would be like, "Tell me I'm pretty," stuff like that. You know, more inspirational kind of stuff for girls. You know, stuff like that. Put in their rooms, things like that, dorm rooms, things like that. So anyway, I got this bright idea, and went out and bought all the paint, and I found a mirror. Actually, got thrown out of at home because we still had the mask mandates. I didn't have a mask on, so they threw me out. So I had to wait like the next week to come back and buy a mirror. So anyway, I bought this mirror, and I wanted to spray paint Mickey on it. So I'm using like I guess the inspiration was the Mickey this, and then the mirror that, and then so taking those two elements and putting them together. My story, asking you, do you often do that with your art, where you look at this particular kind of canvas with this particular type of whatever and try to put those together?
Yeah. I mean, I think every artist does that. Yeah, so I've seen, different techniques that other artists use, and I will try to practice that particular technique, never copying their work, but
Sure.
using different elements that they use in your own capacity. So yeah, absolutely. Sounds like you're quite creative.
Well, like I said, I have, again, I say this, and we won't go down the road, but you can look at me and make a certain assumption about me by looking at me, but without knowing the rest of the story, being in prison, this is where I grew up, this is what I did, all these other things, in my true heart, where my points of view are, you can kind of miss a lot of that about a person. Me, I love people. So that was also a big part of doing this, setting this show up, was I love people. Learning something about you makes me learn something about me.
Everybody has a story.
Yeah.
And I'm huge on that.
Yeah.
Everybody has a story. The most unassuming people have the most profound stories at times. And absolutely, I think while we're here, because life is so short.
Yeah.
So fragile, so short. All we have is now.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really, I focus on the now. And what I try to focus on is, while we're here, let's learn as much about each other as we can. Let's take from each other's stories, because we just so happen to exist at the same time in the same space.
Yeah.
That's not always going to happen, but while we're here in the same time, same space, how can we learn from each other? How can we be better? Because that's another thing I've learned too through grief and through death is, you think as a kid that your parents have it all, they know it all. I'm telling you, they're just doing the best with what they have.
Yeah.
And what they've been raised with, and that's all of us. That's what you're doing right now. It's what I'm doing right now. We're just really just living the best with what we can, what we've grown up with, and the tools we've learned.
Yeah.
So if we can branch out and learn from each other, that's the reason for living.
Well, I had this. I'll tell you. I won't go down this. I've talked about it a couple different times on here. I met a girl when I was down in Florida. I will just simply say that we were sitting at a bar. I wasn't talking to her. She sent me a drink over. It was literally straight out of a movie. I literally thought she was an escort, like a high-end like prostitute. Turns out she was not. Yeah, she was a fantastic woman. A wonderful person. We've talked several times. She lives up in Chicago. The other day, she FaceTimed me. I guess the part of listening to people is, again, you may pick up on certain things and learn from them that you might not have known just simply by looking at them. Through the conversation, I realized, as we were kind of just hanging out and talking throughout the night, was that she had recently gone through a really bad breakup. And I didn't say anything to her about it, but I recognized it. And she ends up calling me, FaceTime. um, earlier this week, and she's crying, she's bawling her eyes out because she is in her mid-20s. She has great career, great family, all these other things, but relationship was such a disaster for her, just love life. And she started talking about, hey, I don't live with regrets. I don't. And I started, and I backed it up a little bit. And I said, look, starting with the concept of regret, having or not, is a negative concept. The pure thought of regret by itself is a negative concept. Instead of saying, you know what, I just appreciate that what I have. You can certainly use the term, I want to live without regret, but by itself, it makes you skip out on the fact that you've done so many amazing things that you can just appreciate. And so I said, look, you had a bad breakup. Okay. That triggered you to decide at some point you were going to go on a solo vacation. That put you at a bar where there was this, now what she calls me, silver fox. And I'm sitting down on the side having a conversation with an old couple from Boston. I said, that put things in motion to where you have two people who live 1,800 miles apart, who have become friends and can talk. And I can give you reference as an older man who's been through these things and certainly tell you that life's going to be okay. But learn in your 25 years where you're at right now to say, you're right, you don't have a boyfriend, but you got a car, right? I said, you live a couple 100 miles north of Chicago, or 100 miles north of Chicago. I said, how many people do you think are in Chicago right now loading up on mass transportation that would simply say, I really would like to not ride this bus today. I wish I had my own car. Mm-hmm. How many people? I said, you got your eyelashes done today. I said, and they look great, by the way. I said, how many women out there would like that opportunity to be able to do that whenever they want? You don't think about it that way. You just think about that this is my life. And I get that, because that's the way I used to be, growing up rich and spoiled. Mm-hmm. It's just the way you look at life. Then I went to prison, had everything taken away from me, and I learned to appreciate what I had. The fact that I got one roll of toilet paper to deal with. If I wanted more, I had to go buy it off commissary. Like those small little concepts, you just say, I'm grateful for what I've got. Mm-hmm. And looking at your art, I started seeing a lot of that thought process coming out, the gratitude of life. The evolution here that I'm looking at, again, I know I was rambling on, but the evolution of what I was looking at is you are the expansion of life. I mean, right here, you've got the rocket and the flowers down here in the bottom and everything. I could clearly see through the evolution of your art that you were looking at life through a different color set of glasses.
Yeah. Perspective is so unique. And yes, I have a different perspective since watching my father die. It's strange to lose somebody, but it's more so strange to lose a parent and then have to face your own mortality in a way. And yeah, you look at things and you realize, gosh, we really put importance on things that we shouldn't. And when you can come from a place where you're just grateful that you have everything you have now, I'm telling you, you can take everything from me and I'll be okay. I have everything I need at this moment. I don't need anything else. We're abundant in now, and that's all we have. And a lot of times that can be what causes people to feel sunk, as you mentioned in that story, where that person just kind of feels like, they just kind of in that downward perspective. I've noticed that a lot of times when we're focusing too much on the past, that can create a lot of regret, a lot of questioning ourselves. Why did we do this? Why did we do that? If we focus on the future, that can cause a lot of anxiety, because you're anxious. You're well, when is this going to happen? What if this happens? What if that happens? When you can focus on now, that's when you've really mastered life. When you can focus on just being present now, your whole world will change, because you're not even promised tomorrow. You're not even promised tomorrow, so don't worry about that. That doesn't mean don't plan for your future. Don't be smart about your decisions, you know. But my gosh, focus on the now and be so appreciative of now and be present. Yeah. Be present. And being present is more than just not being on your phone. You really got to take in everything. Take in everything. Take in how you feel in that moment. Sit with it. Think about it. But be present, and really, I promise you, your whole world will change. It's unfortunate that I had to go through what I went through to get that perspective, but I am so appreciative of the perspective I have now, and I think my dad would be too, because it more so feels like not that his death ever was going to be in vain, and I'm sure you feel the same way with your father. But I feel like now I can do better. And that's always what we want for our kids, right? We always want them to live better. And I think that's what I'm doing at this point. I think I'm learning from my father's death. And not to say my dad didn't live a good life or did anything wrong, but I'm picking up the torch and running with it even faster and in a better and more efficient way. So, yeah, perspective is a heck of a thing, and it can really change everything about us, our attitude, our moods, what we attract.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, Melissa, I think that's a good place for us to end it here, because I don't think I could have said it any better. I think you hit the nail on the head, and I want to say thank you.
Yeah.
Your art had an effect on me, and we've never met, and I simply saw it online. And I can certainly say that I think where you're going with it is awesome. Especially, I'll be honest, you got your purse sitting right there.
Yeah. Shout out to Basquiat.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which, if anyone knows art or knows Basquiat, you'll see elements of him in some of my work. Absolutely. Thanks. Yeah. Thank you for having me on, Jason.
Yeah. I think you're in a great position to inspire a lot of people, and keep up doing what you're doing, because I love it. Hey, and again, I just tell everybody, I'm just some dummy that grew up doing construction who likes to talk on a show. But I know what I like. I'm very definitive about that, and I think you do a great job here. And I think you're in a very good position to inspire a lot of people. So
thank you.
Yeah,
thank you.
You're doing awesome. So everybody, Melissa Duarte.
There you go.
Everybody check her out. It is Melissa _DUARTE _art on Instagram. Can they find you anywhere else?
Instagram's the best place. That's where I showcase all my work. I'll do any work in progress. Typically do a little story. Message me. Absolutely Instagram. Yes.
Find you there for commissioning art pieces, things like that.
Please.
Okay.
Yes.
Awesome. All right, Melissa, thank you so much. I appreciate you coming on the show.